Good evening, everybody. You're listening to Making Life Brighter, and I am your host, Winifred Adams. And tonight we're going to be covering the topic of medical intuition. And I have a dear friend with me today, and she is a superstar out there with the pop group Girl, in case you all are super fans, because I am too. And her name is Natasha Slayton. Welcome, Natasha.
So happy to be here.
It's so nice to have you. And Natasha's going to reverse the table today. She's going to ask questions about medical intuition, and we're going to have a deep dive into a world of a medical intuitive. So, Natasha is very sensitive herself. She's had her own shows, and some of you have heard some of the interviews we've done before, and also all the other ones that she's done that you've praised. She's amazing. She's an amazing talent, and she is going to lend that talent to our discussion tonight. So, with a sweetheart and an open mind toward all that is in spirit, which we love here at Making Life Brighter, Natasha's going to lead the way. So, I pass the floor on to her.
Oh, what an honor. What an amazing introduction. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. You know how much I love these topics and specifically the topic of medical intuition. So I feel like you chose the perfect person to ask you questions.
Well, I love this really. I mean, we are very well versed in this subject matter by actually experience.
Mm.
So this is not a long shot for you even, and this is really wonderful because you have a sense of what this is really. And some people say, well, what is it exactly that you do? What is it that goes on there? So I'll let you carry the one.
Okay. Yeah, for starters, for those that aren't familiar with medical intuition or what a medical intuitive is, can you sort of give us what your personal definition is of those things?
Sure. Well, typically people think of medical intuitives as those that do healing. And so I've mentioned this before in different talks along the way, but I really need to emphasize to you that medical intuition is the ability to scan a biofield accurately and to see into that biofield like an MRI or an X-ray and be able to give that data feedback to someone. And that can then be not only corroborated, but it's something that can be proven true in blood work, in diagnostic testing, in conjunction with a medical professional in allopathic medicine. So we'll call this a holistic approach to looking into the body. And sometimes we can even, in my world, lean into a spiritual approach, but it's definitely a accurate tool when used correctly by someone that's adept with the tool to be proven in science. Does
So
that work?
medical intuition. So medical intuition and a medical intuitive, those don't necessarily involve actually doing the healing work. Is that correct? It's
Correct.
just
Now, it is literally just scanning the field where healing and being a healer is an entirely separate modality. There's all kinds of healers. There's healers that, use sound therapy. There's healers that use scalar light. There's healers that use direct God-given light. There's healers of all kinds. And whatever that modality is healing. But
Mm.
medical intuition is to look into the system and be able to accurately see what's going on, the differentials of the energy field, the differentials of the layers in the energy field. So that's something that I do as I look into the layers of tissue and go layer by layer by layer to see how that compares to another layer, a broader field, an expanded view. It's like taking something on a computer screen and you go whoosh, and you open it up bigger and you look in deeper and you say, okay, wait, now let's go back out again. Look at that view. Okay, that one over there. Wait a minute. Let's go back in here and open this up more. Let's go 4 layers into that and over to the left. Okay, I see that. Now we zero in on that. We look at the differential of all the layers together and the layers both vertically and horizontally, literally. And then the harmonic frequency of those layers changes and the vibrational rate of that layer changes. So you have to know technically what the vibrational rate is to begin with that would be healthy, and then kind of feel the way through the vibrational rate that would be unhealthy to a little degree to unhealthy to a chronic degree, and then the rate of atomic frequency shifting within that.
My head is spinning. I have so many questions, but I want, like, you just gave me so many ideas for questions, but I want to start with, like, how does one even know they're a medical intuitive? Like, how did you figure this out? Like, were you told? Is this something you knew from a young age? Did you know it, but you just didn't have a definition for it? Like, when did this start?
It started when I was really young. I remember being really, really young, and I'd walk up to people and I'd put my hand on them because I could feel the imbalance or their pain in that spot. And then when I had my hand on them, some kind of energy transfer was happening, though I did not intend it. I didn't do it on purpose. It just happened. And when I could feel the relief in me, I knew the relief was happening in them. So I took that at that point and basically would take my hand off, and they'd say, "How did you know? How did you know?" And at that point, even at that age, Natasha, I knew that I even knew the acupressure systems. I knew all the meridian grids and how they connected, but I couldn't articulate that. I didn't know how to say that, but I knew it because I would immediately go from here to over here until it made sense, and then it was done. But I didn't know what I did. It took me 20 more years to figure that out.
I feel like this is something that came to you from a past life.
I think. Yeah, I know, I do think so. It had to because I remembered things very quickly. And as it began, I would dig in and I'd take people and I just have them as kind of guinea pigs. I'd say, "Here, let me tell you about you." And I would. And then I had to prove it backwards. So I've spent the greater part of my career proving backwards what I knew inherently in well, using diagnostic testing as a way to do that with people's doctors and so on.
When you're talking about feeling the pain of someone else, does it always start with a feeling, or is this something that you also see or hear or just know? And is it with everybody, or is it like with specific people?
Well, that's a really good question. To feel someone, if they specifically have pain, you can usually feel that right away. Pain is an interesting and broad word because it depends on if it's emotional pain or if it's physical pain, if it's acute pain or chronic pain. If the pain is in the heart, if the pain isn't lodged in the soul, that whole body of pain, and sometimes you don't approach it from the way that you would think you approach it. So people would say, "Oh, we're going to go and put a hand on here and we're going to undo this." Well, that may not be the way. Sometimes you have to work from the outside in and from the broader spiel or broader perspective of the spirit and bring that in for an atomic shift in the system itself. It's funny because like my chiropractor tells me you have a high threshold for pain, me personally, and that's true, which is not always a good thing because you don't handle things until they're too far, right? So it's okay to be a trooper or a warrior, but you have to know your limit. And so we tend to go in life beyond a limit, and then we need to bring it back into balance. Recognizing someone else's pain comes to me in a feeling first, and then I get a picture, I get an image, and that image is like maybe how it got created, where the pain originated from, the words that were said to someone, where their heartbreak was, what happened. Like I had a young woman come in. I say young, younger than me, and she came in for basically an assessment, a body scan, and she had a deep pain in her. And it's funny because as soon as we began to speak, and I was to do this like body scan assessment, I just kind of stopped and I said, "Wait a minute, wait, something else is happening here." And I could feel that pain, and I could feel this like soul crushing pain in her heart, and it was sort of palpable in the room. It was like hanging in the room. And then I could see a deceased relative. And I explained, there's someone in this room that looks like this. And then I realized I'm seeing an infant. And then I said, oh, something about the infant and the woman. And then it all came together in like one immediate thread. I said, this is the child that you didn't have. This is the child that you couldn't carry or keep. And it was just an immediate release. So we didn't actually have the appointment we were supposed to have, but we had the appointment we were supposed to have.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
and so that kind of visual is how things come out sometimes, even though it starts with a feeling. The feeling came to my heart because I'm feeling her broken heart. And then I see the relative show up, which happens a lot.
So would you say that it kind of unfolds in the exact way that it needs to? So things are just being shown to you in live time with like, oh, this is what needs to be revealed, or this is what needs to be said.
It's, and how do I say this? It's never scripted. It's always perfect in terms of what spirit is doing with someone else. And the healer person, the medical intuitive, the healer, whomever, needs to always really be authentic, because if they're in their center space, they can be that conduit, that medium, that voice for the other side or for their soul. And I had an experience earlier today with this, actually. It was random, but I was having an appointment for something, and I got talking, which is always the case with the therapist. And well, therapist, she was doing a procedure, and she ended up talking about her family, and then all of a sudden this guy pops in, and I don't even remember how he got there, but he's so front and center in front of me. He's so in front of my face, and I can see him in detail, and if I could draw, I could draw him. He had no shirt on. He was totally skinny and buff. He was very handsome. He had sandy brown hair, but he's like front and center right there, right? And I said, this guy is here. And I delivered the messages that needed to be heard, which were pretty profound. I know nothing about this situation. I don't even know this person's name, but I can feel their energy. So I'm describing him, and she's like, oh my God, that's my brother's deceased brother. And I said, yeah, he left too soon. He left young. And she said, yeah, I said, oh, he overdosed. Yes, he overdosed. So it came in as a really strong visual that we could see, like I say me and them. It's never just me, but us, that we could see. And this really painted a picture for some new messages to come in, some unspoken messages from the spirit world that made sense for healing in the physical world for that family. And it was totally random. I'm having an appointment. It's for me. But the appointment really was for her. Do you see what I mean? So it was perfect. And it's like a feeling like, oh, it's coming. And then all of a sudden he shows up, and I'm describing him to a T of how she was, he never had a shirt on. He always looked like, yeah, da, 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 da. And I said, well, he's holding a bouquet of flowers, and they're kind of, and I remember saying, laughing, I'm like, they're kind of those cheesy flowers, the flowers that are sort of, I don't know, they're like cheap flowers in the grocery store. I don't even know what they are. But she goes, oh my God, I know which flowers you mean. Someone in the family photo was holding those very flowers. I said, yeah, they're purple and white. And she said, yes, they were purple and white and something. So he was bringing in a tie for proof that what I'm coming up with is not random. So that's something that's more authentic, I'd say, in feeling and being sensitive, because you never know when somebody's going to need something. And of course, how would I know that? I wouldn't know that. But I'm also not scanning her. I'm not looking in her field. I'm not trying to know about her family. It just happens. It just happens when it's supposed to happen. So yes, to answer your question, it's perfect timing by spirit.
Got chills with everything you were saying, and as
Oh, it was
everything
profound.
was unfolding. Did she know, like when you sat down with her for your appointment,
Oh,
did she
she's,
know like what you were capable of, or this just came out of nowhere and she happened to be open to it?
well, it's funny. a little bit intuitive herself, I'd say, because I got out of the car and she met me at the door and she goes, "Oh, you're a healer, aren't you?" I'm like, "Oh, well, okay. All right. Well, hello." So yes, I am actually. She didn't know that. She felt that. She sensed that. And it was just a very pleasant conversation as she worked on me, and then all of a sudden he comes, just really front and center. And it was so profound, the messages that came through, and were all accurate. It was very, very detailed. But that's not something that I was looking to do or trying to do in being detailed. It was just that strong, is what I'm trying to say. The feeling is so strong, it's overpowering. It's like someone standing right in front of you, talking to you, just like we're talking.
Is there anything that you have to do when you are intentionally sitting down with someone or you are intentionally about to scan someone's system? Do you have to open yourself up in a specific way or ready yourself in any way, or does it just come to you naturally?
Well, it's more automatic now. I'd say always centering, whether I center in the day, center before I do a session, center again after session, that kind of thing. Just centering is kind of the point. I don't go into some kind of ritual around it or anything like that. I just ask spirit for guidance and what this person needs, ask permission to look into their field. And obviously, if they're coming for an appointment, they're generally lined up with that permission already set. But really, I ask that they be open. That's kind of what I ask, because more often than not, people will want something, but they're not open for it. They're, they're kind of wanting relief, but they're not really wanting to open up all the way. Or they like to test you. Let's see what you know. Let's see what you know, right? So
Do you ever get information that you feel, might be valuable to a person, but that they aren't ready for, so you don't deliver it, or do you just deliver whatever comes to you?
I try and be very diplomatic so that whatever's said is not a shock to the ego or the nervous system in a way they can't take it in. But sometimes, now and then, it's just a bit much, and spirit guides me as to whether or not, this is the best time. And therefore, likely what happens is they will return for another session or another stage somewhere along the line, and then it will be the appropriate time. But they first needed to kind of warm up to a fact or an idea, or they needed to come to a conclusion on their own, and then they're more ready. So I don't know.
Right.
I try to be very honest with people. I don't lie to people about any of that stuff, but you can deliver things in a pretty blunt way, because spirit can be quite blunt. It's just very black and white sometimes. And to the ego mind, that's like, whoa, that's too much. But sometimes people need to hear it too. They need to be jolted out of their change. I mean, I've had to flat out say to people, if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to die. That's just a fact. So either get with it or your time is ticking. And
I will say
that's,
oh yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say from personal experience, I will say your discernment is always spot on and you just really know how to roll everything out in like perfect succession.
Well, thank you. It's really spirit, honestly. It's spirit kind of moving that through, because spirit is guiding the session, your guides or with my guides, and then the divine and the masters come in, and they're really guiding what your soul needs to hear at that time. And so basically, I'm kind of like getting out of the way, but the message is coming through like a circuit board. And that circuit board is exactly what that soul needs to hear in the timing it needs to hear it. And I am 100% with that comment. I could plaster that on my gravestone, because it's true. You could tell the next person something else completely. It's 100% for them, but it's totally different. There's no two that are alike exactly.
Can we backtrack a little bit and talk about what training you've had? And I know that this is something that you were born with. So was there any training involved? I know you've done like so much research and so much, work in the field and experiential work. And so training was inevitably part of your journey. But like, did you work with someone who understood this from, also an experiential view where they could guide you and help you understand what you were going through or, experiencing?
Most of my training was done by spirit, done by masters in spirit that would talk to me in real time, literally in the moment. My hand would be on somebody and I would hear the voice tell me, you know, or the voice would then translate into a visual for me. Here's what we need to do. I'd hear the voice, I'd see the visual, and it would be like being an assistant to a doctor, and the doctor is the spirit, and they're telling you, okay, do this now and do that now, and here's why we're doing this. And you're seeing it, so you're starting to line up the pieces. Oh, okay, I get it now. I see why this is happening. I see what's going on here. So that's kind of what the way it transpired. I started out pulling people as guinea pigs. I was doing personal training at the time and biomechanical balancing, and I was doing a ton of physio work with people, and I love that. I still love that. And then they had a lot of issues, and those issues could not be addressed simply with what we were doing. And then I started to pull on that memory of other lifetimes and pulling these threads in. I didn't have these tools. I didn't know what they were, but it would line up for me. I would discover it, or it would be kind of something that was then made into, it would show up on my doorstep, literally, is the best way to say it. And so the only training I really did, to answer your question, was herbology training, which also helped me. And I did study and then teach at the Tree of Light Institute. And that's it. I learned the rest firsthand with people with heavy cases that were in an emergency that needed a tool. And I just pulled on memory and I did it. I literally, they were either speaking to me or I was remembering it and following guidance of spirit and hearing that in real time. And that happens 99% of the time. So whether it's using a person's body in front of me that's trying to rest peacefully on the crystal bed as, as a surrogate for somebody else in another country in that moment that was having trouble breathing, or if it was, the person themselves, that's happening in real time. And so it's a conversation that is evolving the knowledge base by experiential learning. And that's really what happened over time. We went from one thing to the next. And as I needed more tools came out of the toolbox.
And did you like just automatically know like what organ systems you were looking at or what parts of the body or those things? Oh my gosh.
I did actually. I did. I don't know how I did. I would go back and study just to make sure I was feeling what I was looking at. And I mean, for a lot of years, you would say, what do you do? Have you seen the latest TV show or movie? I'm like, no, my head is buried in like anatomy books just to be sure I'm, seriously looking at what I'm looking at. Now, I'm not saying I'm a doctor and I don't have a doctor training, but I have a very extensive biological understanding and certainly a physiological training. And when you combine that and then move into the spirit level, into an atomic field of energy, that's where this gift really comes in handy, because it's multidimensional and it's happening multidimensionally. So it's not something you can really find in a book. You can get parts of it in a book and you can apply that and it might make sense to how the organ's functioning. But this is not something that is written except for up there.
So to
It's
even
known.
quote, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was going to say to even quote unquote train for something like this, it really is something that is like God or spirit given.
I believe that when it's a true gift. I do believe that. Now, can people learn it? Yes. And can people that are later in life learn it? Sure. But the element of sort of, the person that's born an Olympiad with a destiny to be a winning figure skater. They just have something that is different than every other person on the planet that wants to figure skate, right? They just have something in them that's more for that. And
Absolutely.
I think that's true from the major, sincere, true, tuned in healers. People like to think that that's special. I like to think of it as more of a, how do I say it? More of a exact aptitude, like something that one is just naturally skilled with, right? And it's something you're expanding on. It doesn't mean you ever stop working at it. You're always working to get better at it. But it is truly, like in my world, like being kind of a spiritual surgeon of sorts, in a way.
Yeah. And there's like that fine discernment between like, oh, do we want to learn this for like the ooh ah of it and because it's like super cool, or maybe it is part of, what you're supposed to do at some point in this lifetime, but usually there is that like natural development of it, or like you said, you're just like given this sincere truth of this gift, and that's just what you're supposed to do.
Right, right. I think so. And, some people, everybody's here for a reason, and they all have a purpose. And if someone says they want to do healing, well, if they're really supposed to do healing, they'll do healing. It's just the way it is. If they want to be a medical intuitive, it's like anything, it's like any university. Okay, so there's varying levels of universities, and people say, oh, that one is really acclaimed. Like, if you get into that one, you must be really smart. Well, it's the same thing in all of these, that you could be great at this level, but you might not have that level. Or you could be great at this level, but that person really has that really unique way and that skill. And that's what makes them so perfect for all those people. It's just across the board. Everyone has a gift of some sort.
And what boy do you have a gift, let me tell you.
Thank you.
You talked about doctors and how, you weren't trained specifically as a doctor, but you do work hand in hand with doctors a lot of the times. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, people bring me their blood work. They incorporate me and what I say and what I'm doing in a natural way, along with their allopathic protocols. Or sometimes I even speak with their doctors, and we talk about their plan and what they're doing, and why they're doing it. But in working with their blood work and working with the results and the approach that we're taking, that's a lot of it. So I go up against doctors, and sometimes I fight with them, and sometimes it's all love and harmony. I mean, it depends. Depends on the kind of doctor, depends on the patient and what they have going on. Um, Everything is in concert for the person's highest good. And if the doctor says, and the patient says, for example, oh, we're doing this, then I have to work around what I'm going to do within their scope of what they'll do and what they want and what their doctor wants too. But sometimes, like, people will say, for example, hey, I want to do this holistically first, and then we'll consult with the doctor. And so that happens a lot too. That's very often, actually, that they'll,
I do that all the time.
yeah, right. So we'll see how this works, and then we'll do the other. And I think they go hand in hand. I think they're actually a little bit symbiotic if they're used correctly both ways. I think it's really helpful.
You can get
It'll
like all worlds, or the best of both worlds.
Right, precisely. I think quantum healing is going to be normal soon, and I think that like, the next generations are going to look at us like we're archaic rocks. Like, what? You did what? It's so funny because recently my mother gave me this bundle of old tools they use in the hospitals that my grandmother used, or something like that. Scary stuff. You want to do quantum healing from now? I'm like, that's scary stuff. You would never want someone to work on you with those tools. And to think they did, and they did it successfully, and people lived, and here we are today, and now we can do it remotely and still make a difference, a diagnostic difference. We can work hands-on and show a diagnostic difference, and you don't have to have any tool like that. So fantastic. Here we go.
Yeah, how do you see the field of healing today? I'm looking at my notes because I remember writing something down about this. How do you see the field of healing today, and how has it changed since you sort of started all of this work?
Oh my gosh, it's come leaps and bounds, to be honest. It's amazing. And it's happened really quickly, like in the last maybe 10 years, especially in 5 years, really. It's more people are waking up, so they're accepting what is. At the same time they're accepting what is, they're open to that which is already known to be in the universe is kind of percolating forward. So I always said that one day we're all going to heal by light and sound. And that light and sound will be the very way by which people kind of go through like they did in the ancient times, and you get retuned, or you get scanned and retuned, and then you actually are put back into balance. Now, if you take yourself back out of balance again, you'd have to be retuned again. So the goal ultimately is for everyone to stay in balance, so you don't have to keep being retuned. However, to speak to that, sound healing has come so far, and light healing for that matter too. Using scalar light for healing and for really everything in the body. And that's God-given light, to take that, which is technically a sound current. It's not even light. You break it down and distill it backwards, it's actually an oscillating wave, a sound current. So everything comes down to a sound current for healing. It is the ultimate of the frequency of divine love, and the divine love is the sound which harmonizes through the heart chamber into the oversoul and back into the spirit. And so technically speaking, that would come from your sound current coming in and down to your heart and back up and out again. So you have your own little triangle happening, and it's but it overrides everything. So everybody today talks about the light, and we have light and light healing. It is light, and people see light, and the light also affects their body system health, and different frequencies of light change their health and their experience, because there's a different oscillating wave to every light color. But at the end of the day, the sound is what is the final and complete overriding, sustaining force to all health and well-being. And I know that for a fact. I, again and again, every single day I use this, every single day I see this, and I hear it, and I can hear it for other people too. So it's happening. I know it's true because they change in real time. Now they have to hold it. That's their responsibility. It's not the healer's responsibility to hold everything for someone else forever. They have to learn to take it up and hold it. It's like saying, well, mommy's going to hold your hand to walk, and you just expect that your whole life. That's not going to work. You have to learn to walk, right? So same thing.
So well said. As you're speaking too, I feel like each sentence is igniting. I just hear questions coming in from all angles. Like, I don't even think it's just me. I just hear like questions pouring in. Ask this, ask this, ask this. And I'm like, no, I don't even remember a single question. Thanks. Great.
Well, you're sensitive. You can hear that.
Yeah, that's why they're like flying at me. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is why I write notes, because I need some sort of basis to go off of. You were talking about oh, so many things. When we're talking about balance, and you were saying, if you get in tune, you get balanced, and the goal is to stay in balance. How often are you even seeing that these days in people? And also, how often, or how, what's the word? Like, how realistic, I guess you could say, is it to expect people to stay in balance with the cacophony of things coming into our systems at any given point?
That's a really good question, because we're being hit exponentially, unlike ever before in history, with so many different oscillating frequencies and disruptions to our organic field, particularly the nervous system. And the nervous system affects the brain function, gut brain, head brain, whatever brain, all of it is disrupted. It's a really good question, because we are seeing, not just me, but we, true bona fide frontline healers, the ones that are digging in the trenches, the ones that have done this for 20 some years, the ones that have really been here for 20 years, which I have, 25 now, 20 whatever years doing this. We are seeing the difficulty in people being able to hold space right now. Now, there's other people that are proactively growing, and there's more people proactively growing and meditating and taking up what they need to do for themselves. But those that are affected, it takes twice the manpower, and I say manpower that way because twice the spirit work, the difficulty, and it takes energy to pull people back, because the chaos that's going on in them is unlike we've ever seen. It's really unprecedented. So it's sort of what I'll call a divide in the ether, a divide in consciousness. And some people are very seriously hanging on by threads, and they're disturbed. Their frequency is very out of alignment. It's polarized backwards. And we're having to keep bringing that around and bringing it around. And there's days that when we talk to one another, we're like, holy cow, we need each other. We need one another right now. And the healers need healing, and the healers need rest. I'm going to say this loud and clear. The healers on this planet need to be assisted, supported, worked with. Like, we are the ones setting the field for, those kind of spiritual ER hospitals, so to speak. And people are in need of that, unlike ever before from what we can see. And so I can't say it enough, and I am speaking for all of us, that it's not just an airy, fluffy power game. This, for the real stuff that's going down, we need to be respected and understood, because we're carrying a massive weight, and that weight can really harm us too if we're not careful. So it's important that people just understand that, number one, we work for God, we work for spirit. We're not really working for you, the person, even though we're working for you. We're working on your behalf, but really for God, because we're always with an ear on what that line is at all times. And if we get it wrong, we do it wrong, it happens back to us, where we get bombarded with energy. So there's it'd be like a neurosurgeon, right? They can't make a mistake like that. They can't flub up like a heart surgeon. There's a lot of pressure, and it's the same for frontline healers, true quantum healers. And some people would say, well, if you have all that knowledge in that direct line, why can't you just snap your finger and do it? And I'd say that is a whole bunch of arrogance, because that may not be the person's karma. It may not be their lesson. We don't know why. It's like being a first responder in a sense. We're just showing up on scene, and here we are, and we're here to help. And we are here to help, but there has to be a mutual, steadiness to it, so it stays intact.
Absolutely. What do you think about finding, I mean, obviously there's you, but I don't know how many millions of people you can see, right, or work with. So how do you feel about finding the genuine healers out there, and the oversaturation of I don't even know how to word it, but I know you know what I'm talking about. But there's just a lot out there right now, and some that doesn't feel so genuine, and some that does, and some that's hard to tell.
That's a good question too. It really depends on the person and what they're looking for. People that are looking to jump from person to person to just kind of see and sort of see what you read on them and blah, blah, blah. I don't really entertain any of that in my work anymore. I kind of vet you coming in. Like, am I supposed to work with you? Is this what the soul contract is? Because, it's deeper stuff. It's real. And the other things that are happening oftentimes are kind of weekend warrior. I learned in a class, I did it over this year, I did a thing, and therefore now I'm a healer and I'm going to practice on other people. I think it's evident. I think that the people that are seeking that level will find that level.
Mm.
And the people that are truly looking for the real healers, they just need to pray about it and ask, and I promise you they'll show up. You will be connected correctly with the right person over and over. I can't tell you, I could line up a bunch of us and we could all share the same stories of the most oddball ways in which we got connected with someone that needed us. Like I just told the lady today when the guy showed up, I said, yeah, the people upstairs know what's going on. The spirits know what's happening. And sometimes they do the connecting to the people that are needed, because I had someone tell me once that they got my flyer at Whole Foods. I'm like, I didn't have a flyer at Whole Foods.
Whoa.
So, okay, how did that happen? I don't know. I didn't. Oh, I did. No, I'm sure you didn't. No, I did. Okay. All right.
Wow, that's so cool. And that's so true. It's like when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So when the
It's a
permission
matter of
appears.
frequency. To say, to give you here's a sign that you have the right healer, I don't think it goes like that. It's more of a feeling of what you need, because you might need that one in that moment, and that's good for that time, and then you need somebody else in a different time, and whatever. It's a feeling that you'll have. And those of us that really are here for that work, we don't generally waver. We might be tired, but we don't waver. We're kind of warriors.
Love what you said too about like the ones that are looking for a certain level will line up with the ones that are practicing at a certain level. I'm paraphrasing what you said, but that makes a lot of sense.
I do believe that's true.
And when you spoke about like vetting, you know, who you work with, is there ever anyone that, you know, you will say you can't work with or that you're not willing to work with?
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. There's a certain degree that, like, I'm focusing on the people that really want to do the work and really want to have a result. I'm no longer doing 101 training of here are the key phrases and here's what this means. Like, it's, I'll give you an example. Last summer, I had a phone call from some other healers in the UK, and they said, we have a case here for someone that's in a coma and they don't know how it's going to go. There was a young kid that fell and hit his head. And so I looked at that and I asked, can I do this? And they're like, yes, you can do this. I said, okay, I think we can do this, you know, after studying it. And sure enough, we set up a time, and he was unconscious in the hospital bed and his mom was there, and we did it by, I don't know, Zoom or something, WhatsApp, whatever. And we connected up, and he's in another country, and I used her as a surrogate. And I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to test the systems and I'm going to see what we have. And so I went through the body and looked, and using medical intuition, I looked through systems and saw where the stop points were and what this was and what it looked like in density layers. And then I kind of formulated an approach to that. How am I going to get through these layers? What am I going to do? And so I used the mother because she's close to him. And I told her, put your left hand here, your right hand here, and so on. And immediately she could feel it. She later told me, she told me a few weeks ago actually, that she tried it at home. It did. She's like, the energy didn't happen the same way.
So try this at home, kids.
Oh, this spirit's so funny. Oh my God. So anyway, that's anyway, that was really funny. She was wonderful. She was very sincere and all in. And through her hands, I worked to infuse his system. It's not really I. God worked. I was the director, the conduit. And we got that lined up, and he started to twitch in real time. And he had a huge, huge, big leg movement. And I was like, oh, great. And then I said to her, I said, it's going to work. This is going to work. I know that this is going to work now. Like, I've got it. So that happened. The next day, he was sitting up out of the coma, speaking with his memory intact and all of his brain back and his speech. And then she couldn't believe it. And so it improved every single day after that. And we worked every day for, gosh, a few months. And we brought it back because it's a heavy thing. I mean, just because you bring somebody out of a coma does not mean that it's all great. There's a lot that has to keep building there, and you've got to hold the energy throughout this. So it's very serious. But as we got through it, I said to her at one point, because he was really, they're trying to get him to walk again. And I said, oh, he'll walk by whatever next date. And he did on that day. He walked completely. And he just showed up here to the United States a few weeks ago, a year later, pretty much less than a year later. And he's amazing, and he's fully functioning, and he's doing what he needs to be doing, and he came back intact. That's miraculous, even by healer standards. That's miraculous. But to get to witness it, I'll tell you, the work that's done in between is heavy lifting. Heavy lifting. And she got to see it. My mother got to watch this, that this is no joke, day in and day out, and I can't drop the ball, and we have to keep plugging. And so we have to build on those layers. Some of it's natural in terms of how the body heals, but let's say we expedited that and we brought it back, and they didn't know if he'd be a vegetable or not. So this was really on the edge of whatever, but spirit had that contract, and this contract said this one's supposed to heal. So the right phone call was made, the right person showed up, and then there you have it. It happens. And that's how it happens. So to answer your question again, it'll always happen according to how it's supposed to happen.
Like, what question? I don't even remember what question.
How you'll find the one you need.
Oh, yes. That's got to be like one of the most rewarding cases, but I feel like with you, these types of cases are frequent, like they happen all the time. What makes or defines like the rewarding cases? Like, is it stuff like this? Is it, like, what are some of the most standout cases? I don't know that we have time to talk about all of them, but like, is there anything you can remember that just really stands out for you outside of that? Because that was incredible.
There are many, I have to say, but some of the coma cases, just when they open their eyes, because I mean, I'm talking to them in spirit. I can see them in spirit. I've got the spirit part happening, but they're outside of their body. And so once they kind of come back into their body, and the spirit and God have decreed that, okay, it's time to go back in now. And you see that, and their eyes open, and then their hands start to move, and you can see the articulation where before they're basically paralyzed, there's nothing happening. Those moments are really profound, and it would be the same as pulling somebody out of a building in 9/11, in my view, in my opinion. It would be that moment where you saved a life. And to me, that, yeah, there's no all the other stuff in the world is, I don't even think, you've seen me at times where I'm like, she must be doing something, she's really out of it. It's like I'm in another world. Time stops. There's nothing else that's important. And that's why I say healers need their support and help, because you don't know what it takes, and everything else falls by the wayside for you to get that job done. And so people think, oh, you're supposed to be with it, and blah blah blah. Laser focus.
Yeah. Because it is like you have superpowers in a way. Well, yeah.
Well, it might seem
Like
like that, but it's God has superpowers, and God's the one controlling the contract, and the literally, whether it gets rewritten or whatever. And all it takes really is the person's willingness and their humility. And once they come with that willingness and humility, and they carry that through, that anchors in a new beginning for them, a new opportunity. And I've seen it a lot.
when someone is unconscious, for example, in a coma, and they come to, do they remember you and the work that you've done together on another?
Yes, this is amazing. Yes, 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 yes. Spirit sees everything, right? So when you're out of the body and you're in spirit, you see what's going on. And one fellow in particular, I got called into this one case, and it was in Los Angeles. and he had fallen off a ladder from the roof area and landed on his head. So it was pretty bad. And usually when I show up to that type of thing, you know, the brain casing is off, the brain is exposed. It's kind of not a pretty sight all the way around. And you just sort of have to muscle up and get in there, right? So he was a particular case, and he was interesting because I took a different approach. I used a lot of tuning forks on him in particular, working up through his feet back to his brain to reprogram his brain. Normally I do it the other way around. And this worked really well. And I would sing to him as I did this. And I would sing to him the whole time. And so he would stand next to me in spirit by his body. And the wife would be across and she'd be like, do you think he's going to live? And I'm like, do you think you want to live? And he's like, in time. So he did want to live, and he basically wanted to come back when his body was better. So he was busy doing things in spirit, enjoying the freedom while everybody else is stressing over him in the hospital. And I told them that. I said, he does want to live, but he wants his body to be stronger. So somebody from another country called the wife and said, oh, I had a dream last night that he came to me and said that he would come back when his body was stronger.
Wow.
So
Okay.
there was an affirmation for them, right? But when he opened his eyes, mind you, he'd never seen me in his life on earth, and he could now move. The first time I walked in and he could open his eyes and move, he can't come to, he grabbed my arm and he pulled my hand to him and just held it. And I realized, you know, God sees all. That's what I can say.
So cool.
it was intense. Each one of these, I won't go into it, but there was lots of details, and there were seriously stressor moments. There were times people would have to drive me home. I couldn't even walk. So much energy moved through me in those sessions.
Yeah, what does your recovery look like? How do you get the type of care that you need?
I don't usually, to be honest with you. To be totally frank, I don't generally. That's what healers need, is what I'm saying to people, is that people go, oh, well, you know, you charge so much, or you don't charge, or whatever. You have no idea what it does to a body. You have no idea what this does. It'll take me sometimes 3 weeks for, you know, a tumor shrinking past that's heavy or serious to recover from that. Sometimes it'll take me 2 months depending upon what's going on. And so the rest of my world has to stay in a stasis as best it can, because that time incubating back is sometimes intense. And yes, I do all the things that I do for other people on me, but I don't stop necessarily either, because there's more that are asking or coming or whatever. So I continue on. Now, that said, you have to try and find that balance. So people want to hear just the right words, but I'm telling you the truth. And the truth is, usually we don't have a lot of time. And you can ask any of us, we don't have a lot of time to just say, oh, you know, now's a day off for us, or I'm going to take a weekend vacation or wherever. That doesn't happen. But we have to apply and then pull from source again, and source refills our body. But we have tools. I mean, I do use my own tools. I do everything that I tell someone else to do, and then some. And so faith and spirit are always there, if that answers your question.
Definitely. And you are probably, built stronger than a lot of us to
That
withstand.
is true. Yeah, I think what I've learned and seen, even when I thought I was going to die, I'm at my wit's end, I can't. Spirit asks twice as much. Spirit asks more, and you're just like, no, please, just, you know. And somehow you do, and then you keep getting stronger. And everyone I've seen that does this kind of frontline work at this level, they're epically strong. And I say that because I want to do a super shout out to all the firefighters, all the military, all the people we take for granted. They are built differently. They're super strong. And I have so much respect for nurses, for people that you just don't know. I mean, really, we have it easy today. We're not living 200 years ago. We don't have to go to the outhouse, and we don't have to eat our food before it goes rancid. We're pretty spoiled.
We are. We
Yeah.
are. I know we're kind of coming to a close on our time together, so I just wanted to look at what I wrote down here and make sure that I asked all the questions that I felt needed to be asked for right now, because there's a million more. Um, are you religious or spiritual?
That's a good question.
How would you?
Yes, and yes. Um, I believe in God. I fall into my knees in front of Christ that stood before me. I believe in all the master saints. I'm kind of born spiritual, tried to be trained religiously. That didn't work out so well. And why that is because number one, when I grew up, I was going to a church that spoke in Slavish, so I didn't understand a lot, but I got a lot of spirit talking to me, and the energy of spirit, and the well-meaningness of the prayers in there, and the hearts that were there for their reasons. And so I could feel that. And I didn't spend time studying the Bible like other people do, just because that's the way my life worked out. But I feel like I get that firsthand in the work that I do. And it's really in concert with Christ, with Mother Mary, with God, gosh, with all the saints, all the masters, really. So to me, it's, I don't make a defining line too often. It's just the Spirit of God. That's what I feel.
And have you ever seen God?
I've gotten a glimpse of God. Have I met God? Yes, in a matter of speaking, yes.
Everywhere, every
Um,
day, in everything?
I've had that privilege, but I'll say this humbly, that there's a long way to go to merge with God, and to be what I'll say is more of a faithful servant in that way is also heavy lifting. It's great, great work in this world. So there's more, and I proactively take that journey. Lots more.
Mm. Is there anything else that you want to add that you feel needs to be said before we bring our combo to a close?
I think just people at this time need to be compassionate to themselves. There's so much bombarding us, and compassionate to others, because there's so much bombarding us that we just don't really know the totality of what's going on and how it's being played out. And to give ourselves the opportunity to stop and give space and step back. The energy that we radiate is much more important than the opinion of someone else. So if we step out of all the polarized opinions that are moving back and forth right now, and create the space, when I do the quantum healing meditations and things, I'm helping people create a space connection so they can let go of the earth plane for a while and feel that. That is what we're doing. When I do the Ascension series course, we're doing a deep dive into that type of thing and understanding that frequency that I'm talking about that comes through the healing thread. That is what we really need. So I thank you for being the conduit today, and allowing the voice of spirit to speak on behalf of medical intuitives and quantum healing in my world as an experience anyway. So thank you very much, Natasha.
It's such an honor. Perfect timing. So it's such an honor. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and letting me ask you these questions. You know, I have like 3 more hours of questions to ask you. So if you want to do a part two, part three, part all the way up into infinity, I'm down anytime.
Sure. Yeah, we should, because we need to talk about some of the ancient civilizations, and the central sun and all that good stuff. So we should get into that, because that's a normal part of this world, and we should how that affects this too. So maybe another time. Yeah, that would be great.
Let's make this a series.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll do it. Well, thank you. Thank you everybody for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed whatever you might have learned here tonight. And, you know, say a prayer too for the frontline workers and the healers out there. Everybody needs some love. So, all right, go Jolly. Thank you, Natasha. We'll
Love
talk
you.
soon.
Okay.
Okay.